Just as a reminder, we're going back to the basics because as we enter 2026, we have noticed just a huge deviation in values, morals, ethics. The world feels pretty divided, and specifically if you're from America, we are very divided right now. Not that we've ever really truly been united, but there's a sort of a discrepancy in what we call good or bad that I think is causing a lot more harm than needed. So we wanted to go back to the basics to remind ourselves, like, why do we think ableism is bad? Especially since ableism is kind of a hard word and maybe even a new word to you. Maybe you've never heard it before. Maybe you don't know what it is. That's okay. We're going to talk about it, right? We're going to talk about disability in a new way. Also, I just want to say this for people that might be new to my audience. My name is Brittany. We do philosophy through pop culture here. And I am recently someone who started using the word disabled to explain like my own lived experience. As you and people in my audience know, but in case you're new, right? I got diagnosed with COVID during the lockdown. And after COVID, I ended up getting diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And then a couple of years later, I saw an autism assessment, which then got me diagnosed, late diagnosed autistic. And these, well, it brought into light a lot of how my life was going and maybe explained a lot of things from my childhood and also explained a lot of things about my adulthood and how I show up in the world, especially as a content creator who works in a space where a lot of neurodivergent people gather. It also explains a lot of like how I show up, So there's a part of that is like really a relief to have a diagnosis and a name to call an experience. And also it's a constant journey. I mean, even this morning, I was like, am I autistic? Do I have fibromyalgia? Like, that is probably one of the most consistent thoughts that I have, not because I don't, but because, it's not a monolithic experience. It's so individually experienced. And that can cause a lot of tension between communities because, they'll look at you and say, like, well, you don't look sick. You don't look autistic. You don't look disabled. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. And that's sort of what you internalize. And then you have internalized labelism or a sense of identity that's shattered because you don't fit the narrative. But the truth is, and this is what is so difficult, this is what I've learned on my journey, is growing up in a culture like America will convince you that burning out is normal and it should be consistent. Like burning out every week is normal, being constantly tired, not being able to open jars, not just because you're a woman, teehee, misogyny, but because, jars are hard. But like the reality is like there are just things I cannot physically do anymore as I get older that shouldn't have been so hard long ago, but I think have changed because of my experience. And so like the brain fog or, just like the different bumping into walls or having trouble in school, like, all of during my autism assessment, just like everything that I used to explain away as like just burnout or normal tiredness just starts to make so much sense why other people weren't experiencing that in the same way. And look, the most seen I've ever felt in my life is talking to chronically ill or neurodivergent people that can have these conversations because I legit was just like, I guess that's normal. I guess that's what everyone is doing. It's like, you remember we watched the video one time on stream and the girl goes, this thing you'll learn is as natural and normal as like brushing your teeth. Like it's going to be something you do without thinking. And I said, joke's on you. Did I even brush my teeth today? Like that's the joke, right? Because brushing your teeth is something that I've struggled with my whole life. And it's not like we're not brushing our teeth. I mean, maybe not consistently, but it is a battle. Like when I was even a child, even the smell of toothpaste, people thought I was so funny. The texture of toothpaste, the complaint, I would yell at my siblings for not turning on the fan in the bathroom because I was like, the bathroom smells like toothpaste. And they're like, toothpaste smells good. I was like, no, it doesn't, bro. It makes me gag. I was like, turn on the fan. I even now today, being married, we share separate bathrooms. And every time I smell the toothpaste, I'm like, ugh, close your bathroom door. I don't want to smell it. Like my partner literally always warns me, like I'm brushing my teeth. And I like run away from the smell. I use a special toothpaste that doesn't primarily smell of mint. Like, little things like that you just struggle with. Like, I mean, to the point where I was dating a girl one time. I was dating this woman and she, would joke about learning to brush her teeth without making me sick. And a big part of it is because it physically makes me sick. Like, not to get too graphic, but I puke. And so I have to like really work I have a whole system to brush my teeth. So this like 2-minute thing, this 4-minute total thing you do a day is like, it takes a whole system. And again, I get it. We have to floss and brush our teeth. But just the process of getting to the point where you have to build a system to do this thing that people do without thinking is my point. That's the point that people are like, oh, you're exaggerating, just get it over with. But I'm not telling you you have to have this experience. I'm just telling you that's the experience, right? That says, do you just hate mint? No, I love mint. I love mint ice cream. I love fresh mint. I love mint. I love mint. It's the textures and sensory stuff associated with mint plus toothpaste plus texture plus tongue plus everything. It's like a whole process. But no, I love mint ice cream. I love specifically French mint from a garden. Love that. Love mint in my tea. So again, like there's a whole conversation to be had about like the sensory stuff, like the specificity, the specifics that come with brushing your teeth, you know, specifically. So anyways, all of this to say, once again, okay, it's just an example of something that isn't even, quote, that big of a deal, but is something that other people take for granted because they don't have to think about it, right? It's not like a whole process, okay? And that's really what we're talking about today. It's not about, you know, it's not necessarily, well, we'll get into it with all the videos I want to show you, but it's not always about everything just looking the same. It's about the experiences being different, but also, you know, everyone struggles with something, right? Okay, so let me show you this to bring this conversation sort of in the now, in the trending. The first autistic Barbie doll has landed, and some people had some strong opinions in both directions. So let's watch this video together. Let's go through these TikToks together, and let's kind of, again, have this conversation about ableism and disability and representation, and let's go on a journey together. Let's bubble hop together and remember that we're here to learn and go back to the basics of why it's so necessary and important to value people as a consciousness, and that every baby being born into the universe, disabled or not, isn't less than because our bodies don't define us, right? Like I don't think our body is as important as other people. Personally, I think my body is just like a vessel that holds my consciousness. So, you know, if you have a disabled baby, like that disability isn't, in my opinion, the representation of the consciousness of your child. But most people, a lot of people identify with their body. So that could cause some of the discourse to go in a direction. So let's be open-minded and go through this together. Okay, here's the official Mattel commercial. Barbie, inspired by guidance from ASAN and many voices in the community, Autistic Barbie is designed to represent some of the ways autistic people can experience, process, and communicate about the world around them. ASAN is Autistic Self-Advocacy Network.
I would describe myself as outgoing, upbeat, girly girl, creative,
You know Madison from Love on the Spectrum, probably.
artistic, colorful, detail-oriented.
I'm an artist and fashion designer. I am autistic. I think differently.
Our journey with autism started when Miko was actually 2 years old. Learning about her when she got her diagnosis helped me get my diagnosis.
I love parent-kid stories because so much about autism and ADHD and all of these things is like so genetic. And so like this, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about the White House today, this administration just talking about like, where did autism come from? But it's so nice when, you know, you see sort of like where it is in your family, you know, so I like that.
The relief, and I didn't want her to walk through life without people understanding her. When she first started using the device, that connection was magical. She was completely nonverbal before she got that.
I want to become a fashion designer to help me to communicate. My designs
First of all, her fashion is so on point.
are beautiful and different because of my autism.
So autism has been a very positive thing for me, and like dolls have been my comfort. They help keep me stable. They bring me joy.
All right, take a look.
Hello. What is that?
The fidget spinner feels relatable, and it's cool that it moves because I myself carry around a toy bag, and fidget spinners are one of the many toys I have in there.
I did approve her dress. It has frills and loose.
I approve everything. So let's look at her for a second. So she's got a fidget spinner, an iPad, earphones. arms that are a little bit more like mobile to express like movement. Okay, she's cute. I mean, I like a Barbie. I grew up with mostly hand-me-down Barbies because of course I got them from my older cousins because of course we couldn't afford to get new Barbies every year, but I also got off-brand Barbies. But okay, I love a Barbie. Okay, and just so you guys know, this isn't the first line of Barbie that has either neurodivergency or disability expressed. I'll show you in a second some more options, but okay.
dress is, makes her feel comfortable.
What are these?
Headphones.
You got headphones, don't you?
And I noticed that the eye gaze is a little indirect. This one's making more eye contact, and this one isn't making direct eye contact. Because as people with autism often struggle with eye contact, and that was something that was harder for me growing up.
I was looking at a Barbie and
I have so much to say about this. Hold on. So a couple of things I noticed right away. Chad says she also has flat shoes and sensory appropriate clothing. I love that. I did a little recording session the other day and I told my partner, I was like, look at this recording session. It was a recording session where it was just the audio and it wasn't me like paying attention to the camera. And when this is the stuff that happens behind closed doors where you learn so much about yourself, so much more than this. Because look, I'm at work at the end of the day. Right now, I'm at work. I'm aware people are watching me. I am showing up in a very particular headspace. So the other day when I recorded myself, I just had my camera on because I was doing testing for the visuals and then I needed to record some audio. So as I was recording and I was rewatching the recording to get the audio, I was like, like, look at my face. Like, I'm like this. I'm like I'm expressing the same inflections in my voice, but my face is just like, I'm just like almost like so like, I don't want to say dead, but like monotone in my facial. I'm just like, and I'm sitting there and I'm not even looking. I'm just like looking like this and I'm just talking. And when I look back at myself, I'm like, oh, like this is Brittany when the camera's on and Brittany when she knows she's not being viewed. Even though the camera was on, I just knew nobody would see it. You know, yeah, my facial expression was flat, but my tone was fine. You wouldn't have known the difference, but like my face was just so, but then I am this person too. I am like very exaggerated my whole life, but I feel like that's the problem. So when we have these conversations, it's like, who is the real you? All of them, they're just different, you know? So, okay. Which also is why people think you're faking it a lot of the time, or you're faking your personality, or like be yourself. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Because if I have to think about it, like, I don't know what that means, right? Discord said that's not just an iPad, that's an AAC device. It's one of the communication devices that are a key for a lot of non-speaking autistic people. Love that. Thank you, Discord.
it makes me feel really amazing and proud.
Seeing her play with a doll, it gives me a sense of peace.
A Barbie doll.
You like Barbie doll? I do too.
I've wanted there to be an autistic doll like since I knew I had autism. It means a lot to finally see this happen.
Having a Barbie doll that represents autism, I hope that all parts of the spectrum feel included in the conversation. I want them to feel hopeful. I want them to feel like they matter.
I just hope that they feel seen, they feel heard, because this doll is making me feel seen and heard.
Okay, so that was the official commercial. But then, just a reminder, this is kind of like not exactly new for Barbie. They also did this a few years back.
And have a look at this. Barbie is expanding its Fashionistas line. Dolls available this summer include one in a wheelchair and another with a removable prosthetic leg, also one with braided hair texture. Barbie maker Mattel said a doll with a wheelchair accessory has been one of the most requested items.
Oh.
And have a look at this.
I think that's kind of interesting that it was one of the most requested items, but I'm not surprised because we're going to learn 1 in 5 Americans are disabled, which is like, okay, like that makes sense, right? This is another example.
Barbie Fashionista.
This is the Down syndrome Barbie.
Okay, so Candy, tell us about this. What were some of the things you thought about when designing this doll?
Absolutely. So you'll see the Barbie doll itself is a little bit shorter in stature, which is typical for people with Down syndrome. Has smaller features. You see the almond-shaped eyes. You see the bridge of the nose. There is also a crease in the palm. Kayla, you want to share a few other areas of the doll?
Absolutely. So let's start with her necklace. Those 3 arrows that are pointing upward. And that is what makes up Down syndrome, the 3 copies of the 21st chromosome. And with those 3 arrows are a symbol of Down syndrome, which is a lucky few. And that's what unites the community together. So shout out to my friend Heather Avitz. who coined the Lucky Few idea.
I love that idea. And I love to see the
So that's just like another example of products that, you know, they're a business at the end of the day. So they are selling you stuff and they're trying to sell stuff that the market wants. And so there's going to be some element to it that is just like very capitalistic, of course. But that's just like, you know, when we're talking about representation, it has to make people money and it has to be there. But it's still, you know, I would have gotten the Barbie doll, I think, just to get it. I really did like Barbies when I was younger. I liked dolls in general. I also liked action figures. I think I just liked toys. You know, funny enough, never liked Legos. I could not Lego for my life. Did not like a Lego. Sam I Am did not, you know, so kind of one of those things. Now, I wanted to show you also how other places kind of talked about it. Other news stations covered it. Okay, so here's the Barbie. She's cute.
I think it represents the change that's happening in the understanding of autism that we have in society. We're starting to see the movement of society understanding that actually women can be autistic, people of colour can be autistic, adults can be autistic, and the fact that autism is a spectrum that doesn't just present in one specific way, this kind of representation of that, it just shows that we're finally getting to a point in society where we are understanding autism to be, like autistic people to be as diverse as all humans rather than one specific subset of people.
Oh my God, I did like Lincoln Logs though. I did like Lincoln Logs growing up. I did like those. Yeah, chat. She's cute.
Just being able to feel seen and understood and accepted exactly as you are is going to do huge things for these girls. And I think actually, just starting those conversations for people who...
I think it also is important to remember, and I don't want to be this person, but I am going to be this person. I also think that Barbie isn't just for girls. Like, just in general, it's nice, but maybe there could have been like, where's the genderqueer Barbie? I'm waiting.
Who don't know, it kind of even gives them a point in the direction that it's okay to be different. It's okay to use different tools. It's okay to need different things, whether that's kind of got a name or a diagnosis on it or not. I think just showing children that, you know, whatever you need to feel okay in the world or whatever tools you need to support yourself are okay to use, and you can use those with pride.
Okay, so then I want to show you just some like short filmed content just around the conversation that I thought was kind of cute. I think people felt a little bit, Chet says non-binary Barbie. Non-binary Barbie, let's go. I think people, non-binary Bobby, I think some people felt it was like a little like reductive to just put some headphones and like a little communication device and a fidget spinner and call it a day. But I'm going to show you it did actually come with like a whole package. And also I think, you know, autism isn't a monolithic experience. So everyone has a different experience with it. And so the thing is like, I think of it as like a filter on your phone, only for my brain. And so like we all have the same filter, but the thing that is us changes the relationship to that filter. And I think for some people, they might internally feel like, I really wish I could take this filter off. And for other people, they're like, no, I wish I had that filter, or I wish, you know, I love my filter. So it's like, depending on, you get to decide what words kind of work for you in your relationship to it. You just don't get to decide what other people think about their words. You know, I understand that some of us are struggling from internalized ableism. There's some narratives about not doing enough, or, you know, how you show up. But I also think there is a point where also certain words just don't, not to be autistic about it, but like certain words do not resonate with certain brains. And I am very particular about my words. And if the word doesn't match, I don't like it. And even if I transition slowly into using a different word, you need to slow down and give me a second. And so a big part of that is like, you know, so much of my life is like data driven and feeling informed, you know, feeling informed, data driven. It's like feelings are just as important as the data, because feelings are data. But sometimes people try to separate them as if it's not that. So let me just show you a few videos of people reacting to the doll.
Look what I've got. Wow. It's the autistic Barbie doll. Can you see her headphones? Do you want to feel them? It was brilliant. It was such a proud moment, and just knowing that so many other children are going to have that exact same reaction, and that so many little girls are going to be able to see themselves in a doll. Did you like it, Penelope?
Yeah.
Yes. Did you love all the accessories?
Yeah.
I think these accessories that she has are so important because they're just tiny things that autistic people can do to kind of make our experience moving through the world a bit easier. I guess I think autism is something that, like, there's nothing bad about being autistic and there's nothing wrong with being autistic. But when you're autistic living in a world that wasn't necessarily designed for autistic people, there are a lot of things that can be a bit more challenging or more tricky.
Okay, let me show you some more. These are TikToks now. Let me bring them over. I'm gonna mute it for copyright. They made an autistic Barbie and she looks like me. I think that's so cute that a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this is literally me. And I think that's cute. Okay.
They came out with the artistic Barbie that kind of looked like me and I didn't get one in the mail. Do I need to talk about my autism more? They should have sent me one. I want that. I'm gonna do another video where I have to go and find this autistic Barbie because I want it. Like, I literally am autistic in a Barbie. Like, come on.
I think one of the things that I think is so funny is like what influencers they did send the Barbie to. Some influencers, she's not the biggest influencer, but she has like a pretty good following. But they obviously sent the Barbie to like larger influencers. So here's Morgan.
Autistic Barbie. When I heard that Mattel was coming out with an autistic Barbie,
or maybe Morgan actually just got her own. Maybe she bought her own. Let's see. Actually, I don't know. Maybe she didn't. Maybe they didn't send it to Morgan.
I was a little concerned because autism is an invisible disability, and I was worried that it would be hard to portray in a doll. But I think they did a really, really amazing job, and they worked with the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, which is awesome. Like they have.
Hey, at least they didn't work with some of the other autistic organizations, you know?
Autistic people working on this. She comes with an AAC device, which I think is one of the most important things about her because we need.
Actually, great point from chat says, watch Autistic Barbie become the biggest seller, make conservatives very mad. Well, honestly, this would be a great opportunity just to buy Autistic Barbie. Even if the Mattel company is using it to take advantage of you, bro, at this point, we have to send a message to the Trump administration. So it's kind of a win-win. But like, yeah, like, the Trump administration right now, I'm going to show you that clip of RFK Jr. saying like autism is like the worst thing to happen to our kids. And it's like, slow down there, buddy. I think the worst thing to happen to our kids was this presidency. Maybe right now, worse things are happening to our children. Okay. So like, it's like this idea of like what they decide is the scariest thing to happen. Autism, bro.
That type of representation. And then she has the big chunky headphones and a fidget toy. And then also her eyes are slightly to the side. They're not straight on to show like the struggles of eye contact, which is such a cool little detail. And then
some people really hated that detail. Like they didn't understand it. You know what I mean? But ultimately, I think like, again, okay, guys, you can't say brainworms in my chat on a back to basics of ableism bad. Can you see you're making fun of RFK Jr.'s like disability? So you know what that means? If you think his brain, because he had brainworms, impacted his intelligence, you're just making fun of his disability. Hello? Guys, why ableism bad? What is ableism? It's thinking someone is worth less or isn't as good because they're suffering from a disability or, you know, dubbed like not good, or you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to think RFK Jr. is less than because he had brainworms, or RFK Jr. is less because he has a speech impediment, or RFK Jr. is less because, right? Okay, so we want to remember that, okay? Chances he got brainworms because he probably ate raw meat. Yeah, but like, that doesn't matter how he got it. You know what I mean? Right? It doesn't matter how he got it. Most of us will have a disability from something like a car accident or a hobby accident or because of the food we eat or not a vaccine, Jesus Christ, a COVID, we get COVID or something. Like, you know, just again, like we're going back to the basics of why these things are wrong, right? Okay.
The last thing I want to say about her is that I'm really happy that they didn't choose a white, blonde hair, blue-eyed Barbie because I think whiteness is so overrepresented in autism spaces that it's really important to show that autism affects everyone. I'm assuming that she is a person of color, and I think that's really, really important representation. I'll probably talk more about Autistic Barbie because this is such like a big moment in the autism space, but these are my like first initial thoughts. Like I literally just opened her 20 minutes ago.
Okay, then she didn't get one of the care packages. Let me find you, here. Madison got a care package. Let me show you Madison.
Bought the Autistic Barbie along with some Barbie-themed fidgets.
So I'm not sure if Mattel only sends this to people, or can I go out and buy like this whole set if I wanted to? So it comes with a fidget spinner. It comes with sensory toys.
The autistic Barbie is finally here. Need some scissors to get her open.
Okay, cute flat shoes. Yeah, it looks like a PR package. I think you're right?
Yes, I love her flapping arms, as I tend to flap as one of my stems. Of course, I love the fidget spinner.
Okay. Oh, the fidget spinner, like you can use it on the Barbie. That's cool.
Just noise canceling headphones for loud events. And then this for our friends that are nonverbal.
Are we doing non-speaking now? Somebody sent me a link on this. I think we're doing non-speaking now versus nonverbal, right?
Thankfully, I don't need a communication pad, but I worked with kids that used one.
How does this feel?
This feels good, seeing autism finally represented in a doll. Because when dolls started to create deaf and hard of hearing, when they started to come out with deaf and hard of hearing, dolls with cancer, physical disabilities, like I always wanted there to be an autistic Barbie when they started to come out with that stuff, and now she's finally out. Thank you, Barbie.
I like that they did the eye contact and then she's so good at exhibiting that. I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of us have to remind ourselves to I have to remind myself to look at the camera for emphasis. You know, I either make the most direct eye contact with humans or I make the least direct eye contact. It depends on how hard I'm thinking. But I like that. I like that, there is that representation. Look, it's really hard to make a product that encompasses everyone's experience so they won't. So I don't expect it. But, let's be real. Original Barbie also struggled. Remember when they had Black Barbie for the first time or a different, it's not like Barbie herself was ever, okay, it's not like she represented all women. Okay, I want to show you another autistic girl who has a family that's very supportive. And I really like their content when it comes across my feed. I don't follow, to be honestly, transparent. I don't really follow a lot of autistic content. I watch people who talk about autism. I don't follow if their whole brand is autism, I usually unless it's super educational, otherwise I'm not into family vlogs generally, but this family is super cute when I come across them.
Barbie.
It's from Barbie.
Purple Barbie.
Oh, Presley. It's a purple package. Oh. 1, 2, 3, open. Stop it right now. Do you know what this is? The first Barbie that represents autism. Hey, it's Presley! Look, what color is she wearing?
Purple Barbie.
Ooh, you have a purple Barbie bag?
Thank you.
What is this? To help reduce stress and restlessness.
What color?
Purple.
What color puppet?
Purple. You can scratch it.
Purple scratch.
Look how pretty, Presley. She looks like you.
Purple twinsy.
Purple twinsy. Look.
Purple fidget.
No way.
What's that?
So cool. They're noise reducing.
Oh, I want those because I don't like this. Because this, guys, with peace and love, I'm not getting friction alopecia on my hair for no reason, okay? And I know too many gamer boys who got, what I'm saying? Not about to happen to me. So, I can't do this, okay? We're not doing this. I can't, but I want these ones. That's why I use these. And it feels better, but, I'm not doing that, okay? I'm not about to put something on my, thank you. But I want those. That's what I want.
Purple ears.
Oh, Presley.
Noise cancellation. What color noise?
Purple.
Can you hear us right now?
Is the weighted purple blanket.
What color blanket?
Purple.
Thank you. No problem. Do you like your blanket? What color blanket? Purple. Purple blanket. What color?
Purple.
Oh.
Want to open her? Look, she has one like you. Look at her fidget spinner.
I do love that it's interactive like that. Chat said a few things in chat. I'm about to why is the mom more excited? I don't know if you're really asking that, but that's a part of that. Let's talk about it. Human beings perform excitement to cater to other people's expectations because other people cannot read the room to save their life. And I think it's interesting that sometimes autistic people are told they can't read the room, but like if you're neurotypical, can you not tell she's excited? Like she doesn't have to smile big and like, you know, she's playing, she's interacting, she's smiling. Like that's the part about being a person that's so funny is like we're all arguing about who's better at body. Obviously we all just suck with body language, but she's engaging, just not in the way that the typical script expects you to act. That's why autistic people, this is a generalization, typically don't enjoy getting gifts. I am one of those people my whole life. I do not like surprises. I do not like performing for gifts. Like I'm happy to get a gift. I will always be grateful for any gift I'm ever given, period. But also, I hate surprise parties. I'm not a gift-giving person. My marriage, we do not give gifts. I am not interested. Do not stress yourself. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to fight for the right gift so you have the right, you know, So, you know, her reaction to the Barbie is her right. So she doesn't have to, you know what I mean? She doesn't have to react in any particular way. Chad said, no, like the mom was screaming at the beginning. I don't know what question you're asking, right? Like, why can't, like the mom was just, like the brother and the mom were showing their own. What are you asking? Why was the mom excited? Y'all not have excited moms? Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say now. Okay, you decide what you're trying to say. People are allowed to express their excitement in different ways. If anything, I was thinking, yo, sensory issues, girl, bring it down. But otherwise, like people are allowed to show excitement in different ways. Clapping, yelling, running, nothing. They can, you know. So I think the question is, why are we questioning, you know, why are we questioning how people express joy, I guess? You know, that's really the question, I suppose. Okay, Chad said, I found that even some of the more progressive spaces were just as bigoted as the alt-right spaces when it comes to neurodivergency and autism, when leftists usually are the main culprits of it. You need to re-examine that statement, okay? Like you do need to re-examine that statement. There is no way you are in leftist spaces and they are as bad or worse as alt-right spaces. Alt-right spaces put disabled people in concentration camps. Just a reminder that one of the first groups Hitler picked up was disabled folk, autistic people, gay people, trans people, okay? So don't come at me and say alt-right people and leftist spaces can be just as bad. Which leftist group is creating a concentration camp to kidnap and kill disabled people or autistic people or whatever? Okay? So like, do not use that rhetoric in my chat and think you did something with it. Because this is the going back to basics reason we're doing this. We have lost the plot. We are absolutely conflating things that are not real. This is not a real thing. True leftist progressive spaces are not creating concentration camps. True progressive spaces that embodying a progressive belief system are not wolves in sheep's clothing, right? A man pretending to be a leftist to have sex with a leftist woman is not a leftist. That's the part that's called a trick. That's the scam, right? A real embodied relationship with a belief system follows with action. Action follows the belief. That's why I say if you believe something, your action should follow it. If you know something to be true, the action should follow it. Okay? So again, when we have these conversations, be very careful about what we're equating. Because that's how I think we get to where we are right now, where conservatives, you know, literally get to say like, oh, the left is just as bad. Left is just as bad as what? Okay, like as bad as what? We are not doing the same things. We are not treating people the same way. Okay, we are treating people significantly different. Okay, and leftist is not liberal. Okay, so pay attention to those things as well. Okay, so just like check the way you're having the conversations. Okay, another video.
growing up. But
hold on, let me.
Did you see the new autistic Barbie? Yes, I did see it. Well, what do you think? So, here's the thing. Representation can be very powerful, but it also can be insignificant or even a distraction compared to the systemic change we really need. For context, I absolutely loved Barbie growing up, but I also had all white blonde Barbies and one brunette Barbie, which I used to pretend was Asian like me. So yes, seeing a racialized Barbie with a disability is very cool, but what I really wish is that I would have seen this 20 years ago. I don't think it's revolutionary to make an autistic Barbie in 2026 and give so much credit to a massive corporation that has intentionally excluded us, has finally decided they can include us because they can make money off of it. And it's valid that folks are still excited about this doll and the normalization it brings to autistic supports and non-speaking folks especially. While it's also valid that some folks dislike the range of skin tone, body size, gender, and emphasis on capitalism. But what I won't tolerate is someone disliking it because it represents someone with higher support needs. That's just lateral ableism. If you want a Barbie without visual supports, go grab one of the other thousands of dolls they've made instead. They're all toe walking anyways. It's just one representation. And one representation will never capture the diversity of the full autism spectrum. But for me, I don't think this is breaking news in the midst of all the attacks on disabled rights happening right now. Ableist policy is here to stay, life-saving healthcare is disappearing with the Big Beautiful Bill, COVID and the flu are ravaging our communities, public officials openly supporting eugenics. So yeah, I'm gonna need folks to get involved in more conversations than just about autistic Barbie. We need representation, but we also need your consistent action against ableist systems and policies every day. Bye, friends.
So one opinion about sort of like a little bit of criticism, a little bit of self-awareness. I think there's something to be said about it, right? Chad says, I guess my observation was that the mom was being so excited about the package for the girl. It sort of seemed like she wasn't letting the girl lead the interaction about the amount of excitement. I mean, maybe, right? I don't know the inner workings of their family. I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt with how they're interacting with their families. From the videos I have seen from that family, they seem to know their sister daughter really well. Maybe in that moment they were swept up by the PR package and wanted to make a good video. Maybe they were being a lot of things. I don't know, but I tend to be more optimistic unless I really see something negative. Unless I really see something, I try to just assume good of people because like the world is already like so obviously messed up that, you know what I mean? Like I didn't see anything in particular that needed commentary to bring down the mood and excitement that like there was with in this situation. But if it's an observation you're making that you feel like has a backing, okay, right? But I tried to be a little bit, maybe because I am also the content creator, I'm trying to be a little bit less like critical of families who operate differently. Or because I did notice that, like, sure, it was loud. And at first I was like, oh, it's a little loud for me. But then, you know, maybe their family's used to it. Maybe it's not a big deal. I'm a pretty loud person in general, right? So there's something to be said about it. Okay, chat says, I should clarify when I say progressive spaces, I didn't mean actual progressive spaces. I'm talking about certain self-proclaimed progressive spaces, and it's usually online, not trying to both sides it. My experience also comes from time in which those spaces claim to be progressive and inclusive, but they were just neo-libs and TERFs for the most part. I'm not criticizing this space. I feel like you are compassionate towards others and really do try to discuss sensitive topics with care and nuance. Right. But when you show up in a space, and I used to do this too, I am guilty of this. I used to show up in spaces and say, oh, I used to be a part of progressive spaces, but they weren't inclusive. But all I'm doing is giving into the narrative that conservatives are trying to make that progressive spaces are fucked as well. But they're not. They're liberal spaces, or they're people who haven't deconstructed, or they're more white spaces that haven't deconstructed, or they're more ableist spaces that haven't deconstructed. We need to be careful with our language to the best of our ability, even though we'll all be flawed. So I hear you. I used to do this as well. I don't recommend doing it anymore. I don't recommend even associating. I recommend putting down a strong stance that says, nope, that's not progressives. If they were progressives, it would look like something different. But they're not progressives. They just, for the time, felt more progressive than maybe compared to a conservative, but they're not what we're aiming for. I'm sorry you were in those spaces. I'm glad you learned they weren't progressive enough, but they have nothing to do with the ultimate movement that we're all heading, the direction we're all heading in, right? Like we are all heading in a particular direction. I'm hoping we go there together. And I don't want to bring anyone with me who gets to say, oh, like these silly progressives are just as bad as these alt-righters, these people who are literally supporting ICE, kidnapping people, shooting people in the streets, like this administration that's talking about how autism is the worst thing to happen to their kids, right? Like, I just think we have to be, that's why I'm so, you know, okay? Because, again, you know, and I kind of get it from the vegan community. I kind of am deeply inspired by sort of their understanding of, like, look, okay, I understand the difference, but that's only because I had the click in my brain, like that bubble pop of like, yeah, there really is a difference between actually embodying a belief and just saying like, yeah, I believe people deserve things. But ... It's like, no. Or I believe women have agency over their autonomy and their bodies and their medical choices, but ... I believe that, so again, maybe I'm trying to, in a way, like get everyone to understand, like there really is an embodied change we have to really deeply believe. Like this is a big one today, right? Disabled children are not less than able-bodied children. This is a very difficult thing to deconstruct because what people often do is they put themselves in the shoes of what they assume the disability is like, and they decide, I could never want that for my life. Instead of recognizing that it's not about wanting something for your life, it's about accepting that this is the body that you were born with, and your consciousness is having a relationship with that body. And my consciousness, my life, my body is not less than because you can't imagine being in it or having my life. Our lives are not less than. And you have to remember that a lot of this language is used to say that you are less than. Your skin color makes you less than. Your body structure makes you less than. Your gender makes you less than. Your location where you were born makes you less than. Your religion makes you less than. And we're saying no. None of these things inherently say you are less. Because there is no such thing. All humans are the same. And I take this to a radical degree. Good, bad, evil, whatever. All human beings are valuable. In the same way, all living creatures are valuable and should be treated with dignity. And based off of people's values and the way they express themselves, we might have an uncomfortable situation in which, there needs to be a stance taken. But generally, first, we divorce ourselves from action and we decide, do people decide, do you get to decide that a person's humanity gets to get diluted because you don't like them or you get to make a choice or maybe the choices they even make? I don't believe that. I don't think a person's dignity or humanity as a person becomes less. Yes, they're acting undignified. Yes, maybe they're acting inhumane, but their value doesn't become less as a person. As a creature, as a living being, does not become less because of the actions they take. And we live in a world right now that says, if you act a certain way, if you look a certain way, if you live in a certain place, if you believe in a certain way, you are less. And I'm saying you're not less. And we understand that some people will do things that are harmful and there will be accountability and responsibility. Both things have to exist at once. And so again, deconstructing this is so difficult because I also grew up in that ableistic world, that Islamophobic world, that bigoted world, that misogynistic world, that patriarchal world, that white supremacist world. And I also grew up with believing and seeing people around me say things and I'm like, is that true? Is that true about people? Does the humanity of this group, are they less because of what they believe? Does their holy book make them literally less? Does their body size make them literally less? These are very hard things because what you're doing is you're attaching a morality to it. You're saying your body shape makes you immoral. Okay? Your relationship with existence makes you immoral. Now, there's a conversation to be had about the subjectivity of morals, which is what we're going to be talking about a lot today, right? Because that's really what's at play here. A lot of ableism is moralizing the condition of your disability or the way that you simply exist. Right? And that's what's so difficult. Am I literally less? Is my child less? Should I shun my child? Should I put them in a home? Should I keep them away from the public so people don't think I am less as a parent because I had a child who is disabled? I mean, these are all things that yes, your financial status, yes, Discord, your financial status, how much money you make, what car you drive, the clothes you wear, your humanhood is less than. Okay? How do we feel about unhoused people? People see unhoused people as less than. Literally, they think they're better. Their humanity is more. Your humanity is equal. You don't get to be more human because you're unhoused or not unhoused. You don't get to, that's not how that works. Okay? So when we have these conversations, that is always the place I'm coming from first and foremost with everything that I then think about, talk about, have a conversation about. Right? Okay? Okay, now with that said, even though we opened with autism, we're going to talk about a few other things, but generally speaking, I'm probably going to focus pretty strongly on autism today because I am autistic and I just do not feel qualified to talk about other areas of disability as I am also new to the disability community and or the room. So I also made sure to I'm going to feature some disability interviews today from people who have been in the community, have been activists who are much more studied on this topic than I am. And that's going to help us, have this conversation in a much better way. But remember, the point of going back to the basics is to redefine our humanity and to show dignity to all people for simply existing. You existing entitles you to dignity. That is my belief. And on that belief, I build my understanding and relationship with others. And that extends to non-human animals, that extends to non-human beings and non-human, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it extends even to the earth itself, to be honest. Like even the dirt and the soil and the rocks and the trees and everything, like everything for me. So, okay, that's where I'm coming from, right? Okay.